welcome to episode. Wait, I'm sorry.
Jokes. All right. Hey, if you want to welcome the show, by all means, we have a special third person in the box tonight. Go for it. Good evening, Tim.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening if you're watching live. Welcome to episode 180 of About the Cards podcast live tonight on YouTube. As always, with host Tim Shepler at Big Shep 79 is back. Stefan Loeffler at Junk Wax Twins.
Oh, hi.
Ben Wilson at Our Trading Cards. We're a podcast by collectors for collectors. We hope to bring you a smart and insightful podcast discussing trading card collecting. All cards tell a story. What stories do your cards tell? We're live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific.
And Central.
On YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. We're available as a podcast everywhere you can find a podcast. If you want to see what we were doing in 2019, you can check out our website, aboutthecards.wordpress.com. I think that was the last. I was there today, and I was like, been just a little while since any of us were there. So, quick announcement. Just want to make sure everybody is safe and healthy. Make sure everybody was marked safe from the Twitter investment battle of December 7th. We hope all of our friends are sheltered and bunkered down. It was definitely a storm yesterday. I had nothing to do with it. I was just there. So we want to welcome. We have a fourth face if you're watching live. Jason Mashara. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yep, spot on.
All right. Upper Deck president. Is that right?
Indeed.
Yes, that is right.
All right.
And I have to ask, was the Twitter battle, because one of the primers I got here was the question, what's a better investment, the 85 Topps McGuire or the 87 Topps McGuire?
It's always 85.
We're literally 4 minutes into this show, and I'm ready for bed. This is not the last time I'm going to be trolled because we do have a question.
The obvious answer is...
Well, it's not what's the rookie card, it's what's the better investment.
Right? Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. If it's intrinsic, then I guess it would be the 85, since that's the one most of us fell in love with first. It's your firstborn child.
That's also the correct answer.
Okay. So, hey, Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself, your hobby background, and then, of course, how did you become a member of the Upper Deck team? How long have you been with them? We want to know, your hobby resume, so to speak, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm honored. I've got the original three here tonight, so it's nice to have all three of you guys, because I know Big Shep's gone on to change his life in various ways, but nice to have all three of you guys. So for me, where do I start? So, my first trading card entree was a gift from my godparents, which was the 1986 Topps baseball set for Christmas. That was the gateway drug that kind of got everything started. And as years progressed, I got into it just like most of us did, and started collecting cards, started setting up at card shows, eventually worked in a card and comic shop, and then quickly actually started my own shop. And had my own shop from 93 to roughly 95, and had to make a decision because I was in high school at the time, had to make a decision on whether I wanted to keep going on the shop or actually go to college. And I chose the college route. So moved on to college, and really interesting. When I got done with college, I wanted to go into sports stuff because I loved running the shop, and didn't know how to get into sports. So I actually ended up in electrical distribution for about 8 years, and decided I wanted to go get my MBA. I wanted to try to figure out how to find my way back into sports and entertainment. I ended up going to grad school at Indiana University, where they had a sports and entertainment kind of division, and basically spent 2 years trying to figure out how to get into sports. And when I finished the program, there was this brand manager position open at Upper Deck, and had met kind of via email and phone calls a gentleman at the Upper Deck company at the time. He got my resume to the right guy, and I ended up starting my career here in 2006 as the basketball brand manager. Nice. And then kind of a meandering path since then. I started working on basketball, took over baseball, have some great stories there. And I know, during my tenure running baseball, created one of your guys' favorite sets, which was documentary. So I had lots of stories on that.
Sure.
And then eventually took over sports and kind of made my way up through the company, and became president when Richard passed away in 2013. And then have been kind of running the company ever since, and have assembled a heck of a team.
Yeah,
So-
we would definitely like to think so. And I fellow podcaster, somebody I listen to, is based not too far from you, I guess. Reed City, about an hour away from where you're from in Michigan.
Oh yeah. I was thinking
Um,
in California. I'm thinking of Weed City.
Yeah, I was like, everything down south is called Santa something.
well, Santa Ana apparently in Texas, but he said it's pretty remote, so it's nice to see. Anybody can succeed from anywhere.
So are you responsible for the documentary set that is so beloved amongst team set collectors?
So do you want to know some information about documentary? Do you guys want to hear kind of some of the background?
You brought it up, so yeah, absolutely.
So, I can't take credit for the set. I was a brand manager. The brand managers don't really, create the sets. We have product guys that do all the heavy lifting on there. And we were coming off of, if you guys remember, a Yankee Stadium Legacy. So the Yankee Stadium Legacy was a marketing program that was my baby. The card content was kind of managed by a gentleman by the name of Stephen Judd at the time, who kind of worked through that and gave us some pointers on how to build that. And the Yankee Stadium Legacy program was extremely successful. People loved that program. We had a killer contest behind that where you got to go basically have a Yankee Dream Day and meet Derek Jeter and go to the closing of Yankee Stadium and all that stuff. And we came off of that and said, well, what can we do to utilize kind of what we did with Yankee Stadium Legacy? And we came up with this concept of, hey, instead of making all these different card sets that kind of look the same, right? Because a lot of them do, if we're honest about it. Let's do something different where if I'm a team collector or a player collector, like I'm going to create a card for every game that's played, and I'm going to put it from both teams' point of views. And, it was really focused on the team and the player collector at that point. And quite frankly, part of the thinking was, I don't know if you guys are Pearl Jam fans at all, but one of the coolest parts of Pearl Jam is they actually make a CD for every show they play. So if you go to a show, you can actually get a CD of that performance, which is unbelievable because you can remember that for the rest of your life. The thought also was, hey, if I'm at a game, I can actually get a trading card of any game that I went to. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. Now, what we found out during the build was that essentially you don't get good photos from every game. And sometimes there's not photos available that work on a trading card for every game. And the cost of doing a photo from every single game is pretty ridiculous at the end of the day. And then building all those new cards and all those forms. So we applied the same concept from Yankee Stadium Legacy, where we used kind of the same photo and applied different type. The problem was that you ran into some issues where did that player play in that game eventually, right? And there was a lot of different issues we kind of ran into, which is why you never saw that product again. But it came from a good place.
It did. And as a team collector, it's like 165 card team set. It's like, I don't know if I love this or if I don't love it, but either way, I'm getting it. But before we move on to some of what Upper Deck is doing now, just one last follow-up with documentary. According to me, I have the complete team set because I have all of the A's cards. According to Steph, I only have 50% of the set because I don't have the Angels and Rangers, etc. Do I need to go out and now do double my set? According to you, what do I?
So there's two answers to that. So you're gonna love this. So this is a typical, I can't remember which one of you guys always has 2 or 3 answers to a single question that. So I would say that your interpretation is probably the right one. It was meant to basically have 162 cards, one for every game, essentially. And if there's playoff games, you would have more, essentially. So I would say your interpretation is the way it was built. Now, the question is, did you collect the parallels that go along with it? Because if you don't have the parallels, then you don't have the full team set.
According to Steph, and Upper Decks had ones, in the early 90s where they didn't have foil. Leaf and Donruss had no dot under incorporated, and according to Steph, I have to have everything.
The amount of lines on the back of a card.
Once I get one of everything dating back to 1909, then I'll go back and say, okay, Steph, now what? What's next? So I'm going to have Steph ask some questions because a lot of this is hockey related, and this is literally foreign to me. So.
All good. We took a hard right turn into documentary, so I'm sure nobody expected that.
No, that was beautiful because that really was such a unique set. Whether it landed or not is irrelevant. It's an infamous set. It's a card collector.
Honestly, the way I view it is it was a precursor to Topps Now. I mean, that's really the way I look at it. They did a better execution of what we tried to do.
Sure. It's nice to see something I hadn't even thought of, that it's a natural progression from the Yankee Stadium set to every team set. I like that. The first one,
just real quick, Steph, the best set you guys, maybe perhaps one of the best sets ever created by Upper Deck. No, Masterpieces.
Or Masterpiece, yeah.
Masterpieces. That's really what got me back into the hobby full bore. I know I was a couple years late because I think it was like 07, 08. I got back in 2010, but my word, that canvas look, that was just a slick set and maybe one of the best sets ever made. So, okay, go ahead, Steph.
He's not wrong. So our first comment, and I think it's a natural addition. Ben is a known hockey hater and has gone on the record as such. Can you explain to him why he's wrong in a lengthy 3 to 4 part dissertation of the virtues of the greatest sport, ice hockey? Thank you. I'll hang up and listen to the answer.
Well, look, I grew up in West Michigan, so I'm going to be biased because hockey's a big part of what we do, right?
Sure.
Look, from where we're at, kind of society-wise, it fits really well. It's fast-paced, high speed, high degree of skill. It's a lot of kind of what's right with sports in this new society that we work with. I mean, any of us that have ever tried to ice skate really can appreciate the athleticism that these guys have. To do what they do is insane, really. But I think from a hobby perspective, it is the purest of the 4 sports from a collecting standpoint. You have more team collectors, set builders, and player collectors than probably all the other sports combined. I mean, it is a pure collecting experience in a lot of cases. And that's what we enjoy about it, and that's what we find ourselves caretakers of is protecting kind of the integrity of what makes this industry go, which is the pure collecting piece of it.
I definitely see that in some of your products. I mean, the fact that you guys seem more focused on the base set versus exploding out some of the other factors is huge to why in more recent years I've pushed away from some of baseball back into hockey.
Well, I want to hop in real quick. I just want to say that I never really, growing up in Kansas and then in California, hockey locally was not anything we had or watched. And in the last few years, I've built the hockey, the flagship set, and loved it. And the chase of the young gun and just the fact that it's not readily available. There's 6 in a box,
right?
But the demand for it, the hunt for it, that chase, and it's a base card, is amazing to me as somebody that loves that the pure rookie card, and the fact that it still is one of the most coveted cards of any of the rookies, no matter who it is, every year. It doesn't have autograph. It doesn't have mimic. Right. It's not shiny, extra shiny. It's not paralleled. It's not numbered. It's just, to me, it's a thing of beauty, and that's really what's made me want to learn and be more involved in hockey collecting. So I appreciate that you guys have kept that tradition alive for so many years. and it brings new collectors in like me that maybe don't understand the sport, but just love it for the pureness it
Collecting
offers.
aspect.
Yeah, and the young guns are a big deal for us. And honestly, one of the debates that happens every year around here is, do we add a parallel, or do we do a young guns a different way? And I think it's really tough because we have built so much value in that young gun, the exclusives, and the high gloss that we really don't want to do anything that takes away from those three levels of collectability for the young guns. So every year we debate, like, is there something we should be doing different? And you worry about what you potentially do to just the purity of the collecting of those three historic levels of young guns.
Well, and so this perfectly leads into our first question. So, with the new set about to be released, I think January, and with our only young gun that's known about, Cole Caulfield Ultra Slow Start, is there anybody that we should be looking forward to this year? Series 1, Series 2?
Well, are you saying they haven't released a checklist yet? I thought they released a checklist on that thing.
Last I looked, there wasn't one out yet.
So now you're trying to trick me into disclosing the checklist at that point.
Well, not even necessarily that there is a checklist, but some exciting players, even in the base set.
Look, I think there's two buckets of players to really get excited about, right? And this is the way the products are built right now, is the carryover rookies. So if somebody isn't familiar with hockey, it is similar a little bit to what the MLBPA and Topps have done over the years, where they kind of have a cutoff in the season where they bring those rookies forward to Series 1. We did the same thing this year, so we have some pretty big carryovers that are in that carryover class. So Cole Caulfield won. Spencer Knight, who's the rookie goalie in Florida, who ended the season absolutely on fire. And then the guy that is super hot and had just the most ridiculous goal or assist the other night, which is Zegras for the Anaheim Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably kind of the three big carryover guys. And then you enter into kind of the debut guys that have been debuting over the course of the season now, mainly two of my Red Wings, Sider and Raymond, who have been absolutely on fire. And it's been a long time since we've had some really potent Red Wing rookies to kind of drive the hobby, which is exciting for us.
Well, and that's certainly true. I mean, you guys may have had, 25 year run going to the playoffs. So in the years where Minnesota didn't have hockey, thanks to certain circumstances, I kind of fell back on, well, one, the Mighty Ducks, because, well, the movies. Kid happens in Minnesota. I get it. But also, a mom, before they moved to Minnesota, she was from Detroit, so I kind of get some of the Red Wing love. I get it. And no, you're not wrong. That was almost the quote unquote the Michigan, but it was a nice toss to Zegras for a bat in. I saw that as well. I was really impressed. Speaking to Upper Deck and the Young Guns, the set. I'm trying to hit share screen here. Boop. So this has been the released image for the Young Guns set, and with you guys known for your photography and design choices, I kind of got to ask: is this like a portion supposed to be like a portion of a stick, portion of a blade? Is it just a design element?
Well, I'd love to be able to answer that intelligently, but I wasn't involved with the design of the Young Guns this year. So really, you got to hit up either the product guy or the designer on this. I know what they were going for was to really shake up the design this year.
Sure.
And I think they did a heck of a job shaking it up and giving a really completely different look, which I thought was pretty important.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I definitely like the look of it. It's one of those things of like year to year, where do you guys kind of shake up the designs? It's really interesting to see. Okay, so what should I expect this year? Well, maybe not necessarily that there is one, But can you give any info on what the design process for starting a set entails?
So, the design and the product builds are pretty long. So, typically, our design team tries to get far out in front of it and give some design choices to the product group that's basically building the strategy behind the product, the insertion ratios, things of that nature. So, a lot of times they'll come up with 2 or 3 design choices and kind of give that to the product team. If the product team's really looking to change it up and do something fresh, they'll usually tell the design team up front that they want to kind of overhaul it. So you'll see that. But this thing happens 13, 14 months out. They're looking at the designs, kind of trying to they take feedback from the current design in that year and see how the market kind of reacts to that and incorporate that into the decision at all as well. And it's the flagship product, so they put a lot of time and effort into that design.
So you guys already working on 22, 23 design, since that's right about where we're at?
Yeah, they're already working on it. In fact, they probably started working on it a couple months ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I just want to say congratulations for being able to continue to produce hockey cards. I think you guys were ahead of the game with that. As we saw Fanatics kind of gobble up the other 3 and kind of surprise. I think that the Topps and Panini got a little surprised that they had some competition.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just want to say congratulations, because of you being able to continue to produce the products and be able to keep the continuality of it all together. For collectors' purposes and for old time's sake. I mean, I'm an old head, and that's how I feel like, just to be able to have that. It's awesome. So congratulations on that.
No, we appreciate it. We have great partners with the NHL and NHLPA, and I would say they're very dialed into the market and really pay attention to what's going on and kind of the health and the distribution plans and things of that nature. So they're very concerned about the collector. They're very concerned about the hobby shop. They want to make sure that cards are getting out to people wherever we can get them out, which is important to us, which is why we also distribute to mass retail. Tim Hortons and premium programs are a big part of what we do. We had a strategy several years ago where we laid out where we just wanted to get, before this explosion, our goal was to get cards out in front of as many people as we can. So we always laugh because back in 15, which I would argue was the start of the growth of where we're at now, our plan that year was we launched our program with Hortons, which got tons of cards into people's hands that hadn't collected in years. We had Marvel cards in, I think, Hanes underwear packs. We had Marvel cards in DVDs. And we had several other promotions. We did a Subway promotion up in Vancouver. We've done all these different premium promotions to, again, get cards back into people's hands before they became cool again by some people's standards. We wanted to get it out in front of people and remind people like cards are a great hobby and things of that nature. And the NHL and the NHLPA has always been part of all these strategic decisions we've made. So, we were excited to be able to say, hey, here's an opportunity to really look into the future and, make a long-term commitment. And they supported that, which was great.
That's awesome. I remember.
Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I remember listening to Cardboard Connection Radio, and they were interviewing Chris Carlin one time, and he was on a trolley or a tram at the airport doing the interview, and he turns the person next to him and goes, "You collect cards?" And they said, "Oh, I used to when I was a kid." It was the random acts of kindness. He pulled out some packs from his bag and was sitting there, just started talking to the person while they're doing the interview, and they're opening cards. And I was just like, genuinely, and after getting to talk to Chris, on this podcast before, legitimately, his smile is infectious, even over the radio or through a podcast, and you could just hear it and how excited the person was that hadn't seen cards in years, and there he's handing them out. And I think that's, I know one of my little buddies here, my wife, one of my friends, her little son got a mail bag or mail day one time. Just get into collecting and was so excited because he got to a handful of packs and some gear and stuff, and he still tries to wear today. So it's awesome. I just love those things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, no, and it goes further than that, Shep. There's a group of us here that carry packs of cards with us whenever we travel, and when we see a kid giving some parents some grief at the airport, when we're traveling or in a hotel lobby and stuff, like, we'll go over to the parent and give them some packs of cards because we know like that can calm the kid down. Or we see kids, in different places, it's an opportunity to introduce them to collecting and things of that nature. So I think people would be surprised. This team that we have is so fantastic, and they really do everything they can to promote the hobby wherever we can. And that's been going on for a long time. And again, our licensors notice that and they support it, and they're a big piece of that.
Well, and that's what I was going to add was that your outreach program is definitely, if not the best in the industry, amongst the very top. And I mean, there was to that. There was a video a little bit ago where Tony Hawk would go to like a skate park or wherever and ask, "Hey, kid, do a kickflip." And then toss some stuff. It's just a great brand, getting the name out there. Not that you guys really need to, but throwing your hat back out in the ring and saying, "Hey, let's go back and remember the good times, or enjoy just a break."
Well, and to kind of take that a step further, and I think this will be interest to Shep in his new venture if he's not familiar. So one of the things that we started several years ago, I think probably 7-8 years ago now, is we actually started a co-op program for our shop. So we're the only manufacturer that do co-op, and basically what that is that's matching funds for programs for hobby shops. And we certify all of our brick and mortar stores, so we know who they are and that they're good representatives and stewards of the brand. But we started this co-op program, and the co-op program actually predates me at Upper Deck. We always support marketing initiatives for shops. But one of the programs that we started about 7 years ago is we started a matching funds for store improvements. So, a lot of the stores that we all go into, haven't really updated the look of the stores since the 80s, right? And we noticed like, hey, merchandising has changed. The expectations from collectors and consumers have changed. They expect a more modern thing. So, Upper Deck now matches funds for people to update their store, change the lighting, change the flooring, add shelving, really modernize the shops in the cases of some of these shops that are older. We also have a matching co-op program for the shops to upgrade their websites and bring their websites forward, because a lot of the shops have outdated websites or outdated looks. And then we also have a huge pot of co-op for any shop to open up a second store. And that was put into place several years ago when we were losing a lot of shops, and basically said, hey, if we've got somebody who has a really good shop, we want them to open up another shop, and we'll help pay for those startup costs to get those second shops. And for us, the hobby shop is it's where people really learn the hobby, right? That's where people learn the hobby. I mean, the reality is, and one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is, if you're brand new to this hobby, if you haven't collected in the modern era, so let's say the last time you collected cards was 1986 or 1987. Oh my God, you open a pack of cards now, it's so confusing.
Sure.
There's all these parallels and all this stuff going on, and you don't know any of the terminology, and just how do I even collect this? And there's parts of the base set that are short printed, like what is that? And it's hard, and you don't get that education at Target or Walmart, and it's hard to get productive conversation for new collectors online. The place to go is the hobby shop, and to meet other collectors and learn how to collect and where they collect. So for us, the hobby shop has been the most important piece, and we try to do everything we can to support them on a lot of different levels and make sure that those hobby shops are good stewards of the industry.
Well, we have a unique platform here. When we first started the podcast, was how can we help other collectors, and we're constantly learning ourselves. And again, we never thought this thing was going to be around 4 years later, but even this week, Steph and I had the pleasure of helping a guy, Dan, who has some kids, and he's like, help, what do you guys know, and how can you guys direct us? And again, it's pick a sport, pick a team, pick players, pick how, again, your budget, time, space. Budget, time, and space are always going to be the three biggest variables that are, independent amongst us all. How much money do you have? How much space and time do you want to dedicate? And, we have a very unique platform here to try to help other, collectors, because 2010, I was lost. I went into an LCS myself, and I went to the shop owner, Chris, and I was like, download into my brain what's happened since 92. You're talking parallels. What's a parallel? What you mean? There's autographs and packs now and serial numbered cards. And I get out 92, 93 from that window. Look where the hobby transformed. And, we get that all the time. I just got into the hobby in the last 18 months. Help. And it's like, how much time do you have? Because it's not an easy transition into modern day hobby. And, so for a manufacturer to have different resources to help LCSs to kind of pay that forward, again, it builds the hobby.
Yeah, and again, for anybody that is running a shop, is starting a shop, like we have a guide to collecting that we publish and give out, where it basically has a glossary of terms, right? Like, where do you go for a glossary of terms anymore? Like, what is a parallel? What's an insert? What's a jersey card? What's a subset? What's an insert set? Like, I mean, if you really step back from those of us who really know the industry, it is daunting to come in as a new collector and try to learn what's going on. And again, like for us, those hobby shops as the front line of the education is so critical.
Well, yeah, because as a manufacturer, any place that is selling your product is your lifeblood. That's your revenue stream. You've got to get it to them. And of course, they're not going to keep their doors open. Shep can, he's got brand new. It's going to take a while to build up that consumer base.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get those consumers in there? Well, they've got to be excited about the brands. They got to be excited about the cards. But if they don't know what they're looking at, it's easy enough for us to get frustrated as veterans of the hobby, people that might be so-called experts, let alone somebody who's walking in out of the street going, hey, let's buy some cards. And then you see a box of cards for, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars, by some of the manufacturers. And it's just like, whoa, this hobby is not for me. And I can see a lot of people getting turned off immediately. We've seen it all the time. Somebody on Twitter the other day said, I'm out. One of the big accounts asked, are you going to keep collecting in 2022? And this guy's like, I'm done. And it's like, why are you done? He's like, it's just not fun anymore. I said, well, at one point it was fun. So how do we get you back there? Can we peel back that onion a little bit and refocus? And he's like, no, I'm done. And it's like, well, okay. It's unfortunate because this is a hobby for all of us. Some of us, it's a business, but for a lot of us, it's a hobby, and we're kids at heart. And I think part of that is sometimes as a collector, it's healthy to take breaks. I'm a big supporter of that. It may sound surprising to a lot of people, but sometimes you just need to step away, and there's other things in your life you need to focus on at different times. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's healthy to step away and then reset, right? And figure out what is your collecting goal. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And I'm not talking about flipping. I'm talking about collecting, right? Like, what am I trying to accomplish? What do I really want to collect? Am I trying to do too much? And I do think as a collector, at some point, we all get sucked into wanting a lot more than we actually really want, right? And a lot of it is FOMO. A lot of it is other things. But I think it's healthy for people to sometimes step away and then reset and then, reevaluate what their collecting goals are. Now, something that was mentioned to us, what is the new NFT evolution platform? And do you have any previews or releases coming soon?
So for us, we find it very funny about all this kind of digital collectible stuff that's going on. And, we've been doing EPAC since 2015 when we launched it. EPAC, in a lot of ways, is, to me, what everybody's copying or trying to copy in this NFT world. It's, the difference is it blends physical and digital together seamlessly, which nobody else has been able to figure out. For us, what we found is that there is a generation now, and there are a group of people who don't want physical collectible. And I know that's hard again for a lot of us to believe because we've grown up with physical things. But when I try to break it down for people, we have a generation now that never had an 8-track, a cassette, a CD. They've never owned a DVD or a VCR tape, right? In some cases, they've never bought a video game, a physical video game. They just download it and go.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a different pattern of behavior now where digital ownership is a real thing. And for us, our current platform, ePack, doesn't really suit that. I mean, it really is kind of a geared towards a traditional collector. So when Evolution comes out, it'll be a purely digital experience. It will be NFT based, and without giving away too much, we feel like we understand collectors a lot more than almost every NFT site that's out there. And we also are concerned about the viability long term of these collectibles, where I think a lot of these other platforms are money grabs. They're quick hits. They're kind of sucking everybody in to take advantage of them. Our goal is to make sure that if somebody buys a digital collectible, they have it forever, just like a physical collector and a collectible, and that's where we're focused. So that'll be out, after the first of the year. One of the things with software is very similar to construction. If anybody's ever done construction projects, they're always over budget and very late. So it's not moving as fast as I would like it, but that'll be coming soon.
So interesting. Yeah, I mean, seeing. We covered this when we first came in, and I'm pretty sure we've touched on ePack previously. But I definitely remember when it first came out. Me and a group of people were giving our commentary and DM threads and just posting online. What's the idea? What's the concept behind it? And didn't really get it for the first year or so. I did like the trading platform, and I didn't quite understand that there actually were physical assets tied to that. I mean, now obviously I do because I deal with it every day, but that's another story. But seeing it really flourish, and people can trade on there, people can transfer it over and have actually get the physical card, or if they don't want the actual physical card, they can sell it, or have it transferred to them and they can sell it on their own. I've really taken to liking the platform, and I'm really excited to see where this goes as far as it's all digital.
Well, and I think that, so the premise behind ePack, if you're not aware, the premise behind ePack was essentially twofold. One, again, the development started on that. The earliest development started back in 2011 for ePack. But the theory behind it was, when I was in grad school, I lived in Bloomington, Indiana. My closest hobby shop, my closest LCS was like 90 minutes away. Mm-hmm. And as a collector, like, that really bugged me. I wanted hobby product. I didn't want retail product. I wanted hobby product. And I didn't want to get online and have to wait 3 days for it to be delivered. I wanted hobby product, and I couldn't get it. I literally could not get hobby product. And that's the case for a lot more people than they realize. Like, a lot of people don't have LCSs. Those of us who live by an LCS, we're actually spoiled, and we don't realize it. But there's a big population. So we wanted to be able to get hobby product to people, at any time, and basically allow them to buy whenever they want, 24 hours a day, because, hey, I'm up late, I got the kids to bed, I want to have a beverage and crack some packs. I can do that at any time, right? And that mm-hmm. was the first premise. The second premise behind it was, we wanted to teach people how to collect complete sets. And if you look at a lot of the achievement systems that are in ePack, they're built around completing sets. And we wanted to focus on the core of collecting. It really is, at the end of the day, what we do in the heartbeat of this industry is built on the purity of collecting. And we wanted a platform where we could teach people how to collect. So, like, one of my favorite features of ePack, if you guys aren't familiar, is that it auto checklists for you. So there's a checklist built in there, and it basically checks off every time you get a card in the checklist, which is fantastic, right? Because there's nothing worse than having my 3-ring binder of lined paper that has all my checklists or my want lists on it. That was a big piece of it. But those are the two main premises of what we were trying to do when we created EPAC.
Well,
I
one
have
thing
a question.
go for it.
How can we get in Goodwin champions? We're not famous enough, though, right?
This guy.
Well, you know,
it's a race between that and Allen and Ginter. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think you guys have a better shot at Allen and Ginter because they actually do kind of the hobby personalities. Like we've never gone that route. I mean,
so there's
not what we do.
There has to be a first for everything.
Indeed.
One thing I love
We're not
about
the prettiest to look at.
Hey, the one place to guarantee to get an Upper Deck card is if you go to a lot of the NHL events that we set up, we have trading card booths where you can make your own trading cards. So you go to the All-Star in Vegas, we'll probably be set up there. Winter Classic.
January 1st in Minnesota.
Or probably be a booth.
Or if we knew the president of Upper Deck, perhaps we could get Goodwin champions. It's really just,
who knows?
It's who you know, right? I mean,
I don't make any of those decisions. I don't make any of the decisions.
Who does, and who do we need to go on the show next?
So the decisions that you do make. So recently, you guys shared that there was exciting news with you guys and the hockey trading card license with the NHL and the NHLPA. Can you tell us kind of what goes on with an extension like that?
Well, look, I kind of talked about it earlier. We are very tight with both the NHL and the NHLPA. We're always working on kind of strategy for the industry together. Again, all the changes that were going on in the hobby gave us an opportunity to say, hey, let's take a look on a longer time horizon of what we want to do strategically. Because what you can do in a typical license agreement, which, depending on the licensor, is typically anywhere from 2 years to 5 years. That's a typical length of a license. It's pretty limited what you can accomplish over that time horizon with a licensor. Being able to go in and say, hey, let's look at a longer time horizon, and here's some of the strategies we would look at long term. Was really exciting for us, and to be able to go into those guys and say, hey, here's the short-term goals, here's the long-term goals, let's partner together and move forward, and they were all on board and very excited about kind of where our long-term vision is for the hobby.
And we definitely are. I mean, I know the last 2 seasons I built a base set after not having done one since the late 90s. Definitely on board on the sets. And it's easy to say, well, you're just a Wild fan since they're actually doing good. No. Even before the Parise Suter years, when it was just Matt Cook and Derek Bogard and the cap fin Koivu hadn't yet found his sea legs, I'm still watching the Wild.
I thought you were a Dallas Stars fan.
No. North Stars.
When you were naming all those players, Ben glazed over for a minute.
I was like, it's nap time for me. I mean, if
but you know what's funny is they could have been Oakland A's players and you still wouldn't have known because that's the kind of guys they have on their team.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to tell you their lineup next year? Literally he could have been saying the lineup.
Jason Hart, Derek Barton,
Frank Thomas.
So we know that Upper Deck recently had to unfortunately cancel some products. This question came up in our chat as well. Delayed a few products. Are those strictly related to supply chain issues? If you can speak to that, and do you see your current lineup as fulfillable?
Yeah. So look, where we're at. So it's interesting. Through the first, I would say, 6 months of the pandemic, we didn't really miss a beat. We actually were able to keep releasing product. I know our competitors during that time had some issues where we went through, I would say, I think it was like 2 months, 3 months where, there were no products. We actually kept pace pretty well. And then everything kind of inverted on us, unfortunately. And we ran into a buzzsaw basically the beginning of 2021, and everything is completely screwed up for us from a supply chain and production standpoint. And unfortunately, the 2021 calendar and the 21-22 is a complete disaster. We'll have products, unfortunately, that are 12 months late when everything's said and done. I mean, it is completely off course. And looking at it, we had a couple of materials issues in particular that just were going to make a couple products very difficult to actually see the light of day. And those may have been looking at like 18 months by the time when everything was said and done. So we just said, you know what, let's clear the deck with a couple releases to try to focus on what's left and kind of get it out. But honestly, I don't see our calendar getting back close to a regular cadence until probably 2023, if we're really honest about it. And you know, it's hard because as collectors, we're used to a certain cadence, but you know, we all see everything screwed up in all kinds of industries. But this industry, everybody's a little more sensitive, including us, to hit our dates. But it's just impossible. I mean, it's impossible right now.
8 months ago, when you went to the port of LA, container ships literally could get in, offload everything, and turn themselves around and get back to sea in less than 24 hours. And right now, there's about a 6-week turnaround. They're just sitting out there waiting to be offloaded. And so that's where a lot of our supply chain issues, we, of course, like you said, we're sensitive because this is our hobby. We're super passionate about it. And, you know, it's like the world right now is just at the mercy of ports that can't get, it's not that it's not there. It's just, it can't get to dock. And
and it's not just materials, because honestly, you know, we're one of the few industries where the majority of all of our products are made here domestically, right? But it's, you know, there's been COVID outbreaks at the factories that have been ongoing for the last 18 months. So you can lose a third of your workforce in the factory for two weeks, 4 weeks. And you're just stuck, right? So you have COVID outbreaks, you have staffing shortages, you have flat out capacity issues because everybody's trying to make as many cards as they possibly can. You've got even when you are fully staffed, you have people that have childcare issues, right? You have a lot of different things going on that are all converging at once. So the supply chain is definitely part of it, and materials and things of that nature. But there are so many other issues that, you know, when you think you got one fixed, another one kind of crops up. So, you know, we've seen on the material side, we've seen foil wrapper issues, we've seen paper shortages, we've seen glue shortages. I mean, you name it, there's been an issue. And then you have worker shortages and a whole bunch of other things. So it's a mess. Guys, I don't have any positive outlook on production anytime soon. I mean, we have a chance. There's a very real chance that we have 2021 product coming out after the 21-22 season, which I never thought would happen.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, you're upfront and honest with it, and that's a great explanation. To, you know, no apology. You know, you're just saying how it is, and I love that, because now people can know what's going on, and I think knowing takes away some of that. You know, that anger is not the right word, but the frustration, I guess, of not knowing what's going on, and just telling your consumer what's up. Like, hey, we're going to do our best, but this is what's going on. We're still going to provide these. It's just going to be later. 5 years down the road, no one's going to remember, because they're going to remember how good the product was, and they're not going to remember the day it got released. They're going to just know that was the set they were chasing down.
Sure.
And I appreciate that. I mean, that's something where it just kind of it takes that sting away, and you're like, okay, they're working on it. It's going to come. I now just need to find some inner patience, and I'll be okay. So, awesome.
And guys, I think one of the things that gets lost. So one of my favorite questions I used to get, again, before the explosion in sports cards, is people would say, oh, the trading card market died, right? Like it's nobody, you know, it's so much smaller than it was before. And one of the answers I gave, if you go back and look at some of the interviews from 7-8 years ago, is I said, well, it depends on how you look at the trading card market. We, of course, typically look at it from the sports card market, and it's wrong. You know, the trading card industry not only includes entertainment products and sports cards, but it also includes trading card games. And the reality is, if everybody's honest about it, a lot of the collectors that we're seeing now, especially new collectors, didn't collect sports cards as kids. They collected Pokemon. They collected Yu-Gi-Oh! That was their introduction to trading cards. So I've always viewed the industry as bigger than just our sports cards. I viewed it as all those things. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is when we talk about the number of cards being produced in the factories and this and that, like the same trading card manufacturers are also making Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic. And oh, by the way, those markets have exploded as well. Right? I mean, when was the last time you saw Pokemon on a shelf? Like it's
I found a
insane.
single box last weekend.
Does True
I have
Sports
it all.
You do? Okay.
We're loaded. I have it all. I loaded it up.
Yeah.
Of
So
course.
there you go. There's your advertising. You can't find it anywhere else. You can find it at Shep's Shop.
So we do have a question in the YouTube chat that
Sure.
We wanted to get to. Scissor Tail Cards. He had mentioned on Twitter earlier that he was really excited for this interview tonight. He said what got him back into collecting was National Hockey Card Day. Can you tell us the story behind it? Like, when did it start, and were you part of Upper Deck's team when it started?
So I was part of Upper Deck's team when I started. I can't take credit for it. Honestly, I don't remember whose idea. And quite frankly, I think one of the things at Upper Deck is it's very rare that something generates from just one person. Generally, it's a team. We operate as a team. We operate kind of as a big family. But regardless of whose idea it was, I mean, there's one heck of a team that makes that thing happen every year. The marketing team, I know Chris Carlin treats that thing like it's his baby. The trading card development team builds the product every year for that. And then we work very closely again with the NHL and the NHLPA to promote it. And, what I'm really proud of with that thing is I watched National Baseball Card Day flounder when I first started here. People kind of forget that National Baseball Card Day just failed miserably in the early 2000s when both us and Topps tried to work together to kind of get that thing going. And, the team here somehow figured out how to get National Hockey Card Day working, and then, served as an inspiration for the other sports. So the team here has done a wonderful job. There's a lot of people that have been here a long time that have worked on it. But I definitely can't take any credit for it whatsoever.
No, but the team is great. And that's really, it's a collaborative effort. You've mentioned it multiple times. Chris's name has come up more than once, in the last hour. First off, if you can give Chris our condolences from not just us, but all of our listeners, the entire hobby, for the passing of his brother, John. I know John had suffered from ALS for quite some time. And Chris and John, they're, everything I've seen on Facebook and Twitter, he loved his brother. And, unfortunately, John succumbed to the ALS. But if you can pass that along, that'd be great. Every time Chris has come on in the past, like Shep had said, his enthusiasm for the hobby, Upper Deck products, just sports in general. I mean, it's immense. And I can't tell you how many people are in our chat room those nights and they're like, I just went on and bought Upper Deck, or I just started collecting because of Chris's enthusiasm. It just bleeds through his passion in everything he says. Can you give our listeners any insight, sneak peeks into what Upper Deck does have in store for the 2021-2022 NHL trading card season?
It's a little bit of a bugger because I don't want people to get excited and then have to wait for when the product actually finally makes it out the door, right?
Sure, of course.
It's frustrating, but look, I'm the wrong guy to talk product. We have a wonderful product team that can really get into details of the stuff. I'm a little bit of a homer. I get excited about everything. I'm really excited about AEW. I have in my 15 plus years that I've been here, I have never had a more anticipated new license than AEW. We grossly underestimated the production run of what we needed to produce for this first product. Look, the hockey stuff, I get excited for every set. I mean, we've got MVP, O-Pee-Chee, UD1 coming out. We've got a lot of stragglers from 2021 that are going to be wonderful products when we finally get those out as well. But it's hard for me to narrow it down, guys. I'm too much of a homer.
Sure.
Gotcha. So
now it's funny that you mentioned AEW because we kind of snuck a sucker punch, if you will, in there, and got a few last couple of questions in. So as far as AEW, because I asked one of the biggest wrestling card collector friends of mine that I know, what his questions would be for you. If you're given the opportunity, and he passed along these three. Are there plans for multiple releases? And it seemed like you just alluded to that's your first release that you have planned. So I would assume yes.
Yeah. So there's again, that's a two-part answer. Yes, we'll have multiple releases. Again, when they actually street, beyond me at this point. But with that being said, we also are strategically making sure that we only are going to have a handful of releases on a yearly basis. We don't want to water down the content,
Gotcha.
and we don't want to water down the value, particularly of the autographs and the game used material and some of the rookie cards as well. So I wouldn't anticipate like a full slate, like crazy number of releases. Like there's only going to be a couple releases on a yearly basis because we have a very rare opportunity where we get to take a license from day one and basically nurture it and really protect the value of it. So, you're going to be surprised at how few products we make on AEW on a yearly basis.
But I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because it actually gives you a chance to fully collect everything without the week to week, almost whiplash of, hey, there's this set. Well, no, now there's this set. Well, now there's that set. Relax, breathe it in, see what you really like about the set.
And what Shep alluded to earlier with the Upper Deck base set for hockey, we wanted our first set for AEW to be a base set as well.
Nice.
So the focus is on the base set, the subsets, the rookie cards, the insert content, and not so much about the autographed and the game used content. We really want people to, enjoy the product and enjoy it in a normal collecting experience.
And have it find its own identity. He also mentioned that there was I think that there was like a 2, 3, 4 card EPAC preview sets. Are there any more plans for timed EPAC releases, maybe for like special SummerSlam or not SummerSlam because that's wrestling, but it's similar major events that go through AEW type deal?
So we released some kind of introductory cards, preview cards, is a way to help bridge the gap. So look, again, the AEW fan, the anticipation for that release is so big. People were pretty upset as the release kept moving out, right? Like it's been delayed several times now. And we wanted to be able to create some cards that the AEW fan could get their hands on and collect in the meantime while we're waiting for that set. So that was kind of the genesis to deliver those. But yeah, you'll see more opportunities as time goes on with AEW. One of the things that we've talked about internally, and I don't know where the product team is to do some kind of game dated moments, which is, timed around a specific event or something really important that happens. Typically with AEW, it's the pay-per-views. And they do 4 pay-per-views per year. So we've talked about doing some things about specific, really important moments within AEW and dropping some of that content as well.
And then not that the first set will necessarily feature these, but are you guys going to have more of a focus for on-card, sticker auto?
You're going to see a little bit of everything.
Sure.
You'll see a little bit of everything.
So just one or two more questions before we let you go. We really want to appreciate and thank you for the generous hour that you've given us, and you're welcome to stay with us. Tim Hortons, obviously huge. Any plans to bring anything stateside?
I think with hockey, it's kind of a tough thing, and I think what as Americans typically we don't understand is the passion for hockey cards in Canada. I always talk about we have 4 sports here in the U.S. and in Canada they have 1 sport.
Yeah,
right.
You're not wrong.
And the other thing that I think we don't understand either is how ingrained Tim Hortons is in Canadian culture. It's not just a donut shop. It's not just a coffee shop. Like, it's Canadiana. It really is part of their culture. And to be able to blend hockey and Tim Hortons together is something that I don't know that we can duplicate here in the U.S.
Sure.
We also have, unfortunately, Tim Hortons has the sponsorship rights in Canada. Dunkin' Donuts has the sponsorship rights here in the U.S. So you have kind of split rights, which makes it difficult to bring Tim Hortons in. So there's a lot of different things that make it kind of difficult to replicate what we do up there.
So
Sure.
one of the best things, growing up, you go to the Denny's, get the Upper Deck hologram baseball cards back in the 90s.
Grand slams.
My dad and I go there usually on Wednesday nights before the show because it's super quick and easy. You can sit there for an hour and then come home and do the show. You want to get Ben excited about hockey cards. What about putting some hockey cards in Denny's or another retail or food chain to where kids are there? For a while they had Lord of the Rings cards. I forget who produced those. Have you guys discussed that? Might we see that soon?
Yeah, look, I think one of the difficult things is whatever we do here in the U.S., we want to make sure we don't damage the integrity of the Hortons program. So, for us, we really look at every decision we make. If we make another SKU, if we make another brand, how does that affect everything else? Sure. For us, we don't want to screw up the Hortons program. So what we do has to be very completely different and has to have a reason to do it, not just to do it. Where we've concentrated and had a lot of traction here in the U.S. is some of these other programs that we've done. We've done, like I mentioned earlier, the Marvel program. We did a ridiculously successful Michael Jordan program with Hanes, where people were basically buying whole display racks of underwear. Right? Oh, Chef's saying he's got a whole closet
full of slew of stuff, man. That was awesome.
We've done some programs with Gatorade. We've done some different programs along that line. So that's kind of where we've had a lot of success from a U.S. standpoint. But I have to say, the U.S. market, it's not as easy to put together a premium program as we've been able to do in Canada. And honestly, that wasn't easy either. That took several years. And I think that's why you don't see it from any of the manufacturers. It's tough. It's a really tough thing to put together a successful premium program.
All right. Well, I guess I'm not going to get a Grand Slam and a young gun hologram anytime soon. But
you should know that I hammer the product team because I love those Grand Slam holograms, and I have been all over them to do Grand Slam type holograms all over again. So those particularly the one that had the color border on it. I can't remember if that's 93, but that was my favorite design.
Those are they're different, and when you're younger, they're cool, and when you're older, like us,
they're still cool. What are you talking about, cool, man?
No, shiny. I've got multiple pages of McGuire's in my binder of the old Upper Deck holograms, and it's just like, ooh, it's like, that's why I wanted to ask the question. When can I see those? I'll collect hockey cards. Just got to get the holograms. Hardest question we're gonna ask.
Have one last one for you. So, one, congrats for the Blizzard extension, and with AEW, huge Blizzard guy. I can't put down Diablo 2. And with the AEW extension, I kind of wanted to get your opinion on what all goes into signing a new license, because as Angela had put it, and that's her one input for these questions, when we may see something maybe for like the National Women's Hockey League, because she would absolutely love a young gun of a Whitecap player or something to that effect.
Well, look, we're always evaluating and looking for new areas of opportunity. And honestly, sometimes we just test stuff out in Goodwin because, as our head of product development says, that we like to keep Goodwin weird. There's a ton of stuff that we like to experiment and try. And, we're always looking at new licenses and new things to, add to the portfolio. And I think, with our global distribution, our EPAC model, it really has given us a chance to maybe try some licenses we haven't had. It's funny. If you go, you guys probably never saw it. But if you go back to like 2011, we did Major League Lacrosse. We've done a lot of kind of funky, different licenses over the years. We did one of my favorites, and one of the ones I still get the most criticism about, is we did a bunch of figure skaters that we dropped in a hockey product. I want to say Sans 2008, 2009, where we had, a whole bunch of figure skaters, and some of those figure skaters valued out ridiculously well. There was one that was like $300 autograph cards. So we're always experimenting and taking a shot at it. I think the one thing that may be interesting to you guys is that, when you go to some of these licenses that have never done a trading card deal before, like when you start asking about, how do you get photos and how do you get certain assets, that you just blow their mind. Like they just don't even understand, because there is no other license that is as high maintenance as trading cards, because of all the things that we need to make a trading card set.
Which we can just say, Nick Waska is an amazing photographer, an amazing person in person too. Me and Shep partied with him a couple nights, and super amazing guy.
Hardest question of the night. We ask every first-time guest, if you could only own one card, what would it be?
So it's interesting. I still have my original 1986 top set that I got as a Christmas present. That was my gateway drug. Collectively, I would say that 86 set, because that's what got me into this. If I had to pick a singular card, the one I always talk about is my O-Pee-Chee Mario Lemieux rookie, because if you guys haven't heard the story, when I was a kid, that was my big spend, was to get that Lemieux. And at the time, growing up in Muskegon, our minor league team was a team called the Lumberjacks, and we were the farm system for the Penguins. So even though I was a huge Red Wings fan, as a kid, you're attached to that farm team that you go watch the games, and then, the feeder. And Lemieux was my big card at the time. That O-Pee-Chee rookie card was a big deal. And one day I came home and found that card was missing. And come to find out, one of my quote unquote friends had taken it from me and sold it to the local card shop.
Oh boy.
So a few years ago, I was able to replace that card. Now I don't have a 10, but I was able to replace that card as kind of a sentimental replacement. So because I have this crazy story behind it, that Mario Lemieux rookie card kind of,
it's in one of those screw downs. It's this thick in a vault.
When it was stolen, that's the funny part, is when it was stolen. No, when it was stolen, it was in one of those like 2-inch screw down lucite old school holders before we knew what a one touch was, right?
About the size of a Game Boy.
Yeah. Size of a Nintendo at the time, man. Yeah.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
Jason, we really appreciate your time. You're welcome to stay with us if you want to move on with the show.
I'm hanging out, guys. I'm hanging out.
Awesome. We're going to have you back on, because we only got to like half the questions.
I just want to know, like, we've heard like rumors that there's been not a lot, we'll say a lot, of folks at Upper Deck have been a fan of the pod, and that I think warmed us so much when we first heard it, and then we kept hearing it again and again. We're like, well, not everybody could be telling the same lie, right? So we want to thank you guys. I mean, that to us was just three guys with microphones doing a show. I think that all warmed us quite a bit. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, I think the nice part about your pod is you guys are brutally honest. You come at it from a collector standpoint. There's no agenda. Some of the podcasts you listen to, they've got to cater to their sponsors. They've got to cater to certain parties. They're scared to pull punches, things of that nature. So I think because you guys don't have this corporate feel to you, that it is truly for collectors. I think that endears you to the listening audience, but I think for the people who are true hobbyists that work at the manufacturers, that also is something that's important to us too. I mean, to me, the best pods that I listen to, and I am a lurker, are the ones that give constructive criticism in a very positive way, because none of us are perfect. None of us make every product perfect. None of us do everything right. So it is good to be able to get perspective and some criticism on a constructive level, not the toxic wasteland that is Twitter.
Sure, most definitely.
Which I say for Twitter, a lot of what it comes through with us is it's just passion. Our criticism is because we love the hobby so much that, and I know we speak for a lot of other collectors as well as one voice for many, and that's why we've never really accepted any sponsor from the beginning. When we first talked about it, it's like we want to be able to talk transparently and honestly as collectors, for collectors, to collectors. Mm-hmm. And if a manufacturer or distributor happens to be listening, great. A focus group of sorts. And
exactly. I mean, there's something to be said for. When you guys are doing this 18 months out, there's no way that you can know that this design may not work, or this design is poor, or this insert is amazing, we love it, until it releases. And we'd like to say, okay, we kind of like that, we like the idea of what they're going for, but or the exact opposite. I absolutely love what they did here, and I'll give them props for it. At the same time, where's Topps Big League? Or the Wood Minis that just seem to have disappeared. Things like that.
And I think the other thing that's what I think makes this podcast interesting is, the different voices and the different perspectives. And I think that's important because, whether it's you three or, you guys have done a good job of getting some guest hosts while Shep's moonlighting or, trying to become Beyonce or whatever he's trying to do to break away from Destiny's Child. I think it's nice to have those different perspectives and the debate, right? And hey, I think this is what they were thinking. I don't like it, but at least I understand. And, you get the different perspectives. And I think that's important as collectors to be able to hear some of the debate that goes behind why people like certain things or you guys like certain things and the different perspectives. So I think, having multiple voices on any given podcast is always a benefit. It's tough sometimes when you're listening to a podcast and it's one voice every week for an hour and a half, and it's the same perspective over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, we've jokingly called ourselves the more masculine The View for the hobby, but there's something to that where I like hockey, but Ben
don't remember that.
But
I don't remember that either.
Definitely have.
It was a fever dream.
They're trying not to remember that.
Well, all I know is my new podcast with Jeff Wilson is going to be quite amazing.
Oh boy!
So I upgraded Wilson's on that one.
Apparently. So I don't know if you want to stick around, Shep. If you need it.
I miss you guys. This has been great. I mean, I'm this is the perfect episode to hop back on. Sorry, I'm doing it from the car. Like I said, we closed up shop today, and I figure, I told Steph, I want to be in, and but I'm gonna have to do it from the car. So, it's been crazy.
Are you truly in the car, or are you like on a street corner hawking blasters?
I'm picking up some illegal blasters right now. Doing a back alley. I'm doing back alley deals for some hanger boxes.
That's why he keeps hopping off, because they're coming by the window.
Right? Yeah.
So tell us for a couple minutes, how is it going? I know you guys just opened a couple weeks back, but
yeah, we opened the Saturday after Black Friday, so I think today was day official 11 of the doors being open, and it's crazy. I mean, I've already been promoted once. We had some personnel changes at the shop, all for good reasons, but I'm now running the day-to-day of the shop.
Nice.
And pretty much, if the shop's look and feel and all that stuff is up to me and what we have in there. And so that's pretty awesome. And I'm just kind of getting my arms around that. But the first day, I think we had 450 people walk in the door. We did a spot on a local morning TV show at 7. And so we were there from 7 to like 9 opening day, which was, it felt like 25 minutes. and we had a Babe Ruth 1933 Babe Ruth Gowdy walk in on day 2 from a 20-year-old kid, and we traded for it.
Nice.
Very nice.
And now it's in our possession. The stuff that's walked in, the people we've met so far, it's blown me away, and just the stories of talking to the collectors, the people returning. Hey, I'm coming back in. I've never collected before. I'm back into it. Or people have collected for a long time, like us, saying like we wanted to open that card shop 2.0 experience that Jimmy has in Kentucky and like Ryan has in Ohio. And I think we've really done that. We try to modernize it. We have a huge space, and lots of we're gonna have our first trade night coming up in January, and on January 15th, and then the following 2 weeks later, January 29th, we have some guy named Raleigh Fingers coming in to hang out the shop.
You also have Ben Wilson that day.
Yeah, well. And then so here's a list of guys, and I don't have dates for all of them, but they're confirmed, and I got to check with them. But Raleigh Fingers, Horace Grant, Dan Issel, Alex English, Christian Okoye, Rick Barry, Artis Gilmore, or some of the we have lined up to come in once a month, and they're going to come in and.
I think you cut out.
Bad connection there for a moment.
Bye, Tim.
All right. Well, if he hops back on, if we can get a good connection, we can have him finish that thought. Let's hop into it. I know we don't really have, I didn't know how long, the interview with you, Jason, was going to go. So we kept the show notes really, really light tonight.
All good. I think is Shep back?
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry, the internet's kind of funky out here in the parking lot, but we're gonna try to. I don't know where I left off, but we're gonna have a signing at least once a month, and mostly like Hall of Famers and those legends like Christian Okoye might not be a Hall of Famer, but everybody remembers the Nigerian Nightmare. And so I'm so blessed with the folks, the guys I work with, and what we're building there. So it's been crazy. I love it. I don't feel like I'm working. So
what you're saying is you're gonna have Shep's all-time fan favorites pop through?
Probably.
Okay.
I did hear something about one of my favorite all-time players, and I'm a little disappointed. So that's why they said never meet your heroes, and so I'm okay with that right now. So
Mike Schmidt said no.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And
then on another side too, I'm down 40 pounds since my surgery in October. So I'm feeling good.
You know my thoughts on that, brother.
Yeah. So I feel good.
Right.
It's life's been crazy, guys, and I just appreciate it. And I know that Emran and I are working with some folks at Upper Deck now that we've opened the shop, and we're going to get certified and be able to carry all the awesomeness in store. So we're working on that, and I'm just excited to do it. I told my wife this was a dream. If I had ever won the lottery and just tons of money and we could retire, I would have taken that money and opened a shop. And the fact that I'm able to do that right now and take this, it's been great. So
how much of a kinship do you feel to the movie Clerks?
Oh yeah, a little better customer service than Randall and those guys.
Yeah. So one of the funny stories is so when I had my shop back in the day, I actually got rejected by Upper Deck for being direct.
Oh.
So
now you're like, I'm here.
Yeah. So I got one of the Dear John letters, like, thank you for your application, but sorry. So I was direct with Fleer, and I was direct with Collector's Edge. Those were my two direct
Collector's
accounts.
Edge was awesome.
Yeah.
So
product.
And so now in their face, right? Because now you're the president.
Right. Like we need to go through the archives and find out why I was declined.
I would love to find that rejection letter. I haven't been able to find it. I swear I kept it. I would love to be able to put that framed in my office, man.
Yeah, put it the next conference room meeting. Just say, okay, I'm not mad at you guys. I'm just disappointed. Everybody put your nose in the corner for 5 minutes. No bagels for you guys. Sorry. Yeah. So let's get into the show. We'll try to keep it light. Listener mail days, pulls, small stack of some junk wax era, mostly A's are all A's.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I gotta bounce. I gotta head home before
Sure.
before I
Say
have
hello to
to,
the
I
wifey.
disappear off the earth.
we need to
Of
get
course.
together soon. I got stuff in my van for you.
I have stuff for you guys. All right, I'll talk to y'all soon.
All right.
Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on. We know
Yeah.
you're busy running that shop.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Boy.
So yeah, these came from Dewey Lund. He's scheduled to appear on About the Cards on December 22nd. Appreciate that kind gesture. And then Doc Breaks said, "Hey, I know you've been going through some health issues. Got something for you." He ends up sending me an oversized Stadium Club auto of McGuire, number 10 out of 10 from 2019. I mean, you want to talk about a ridiculous random act of kindness. So I can't thank him. I don't know if he's a listener. So I reached out on Twitter, and I mean, the outpouring of support when I went through some health stuff a couple of weeks ago that's continued. Again, I appreciate everybody. And Steph, I think you had something.
Have two things to share. One, of course, Mark Oil sent his most latest pickup. But I got to say that I think everyone will appreciate this one. 1964 Topps, the All-Star Banquet card for Louis Tiant.
Nice.
At the time, a Cleveland not Guardian. And these are very limited, given out, I believe, as part of the banquet itself. So it's a supreme pickup for Mark in his Red Sox collection. And then for myself, the listener, Matt McNeil, who I believe was in the chat earlier, had saw that I had made a post about Topps Holiday and said that I only have a few cards remaining after completing 6 blasters. And he said, "Hey, I have 4 of them. So I only have 2 left." But he surprised me with a couple extra cards from Diamond Kings, because, of course, what else? Of Torrey Hunter. So on the back, number 3 of 100. It's 2004 TK. But more so, birth year, 87 of 100. Torrey Hunter. Same next year, 2005. Dual bat piece for Torrey Hunter. Greatly appreciated with the set help, and thank you for the surprises, amongst others.
Matt's been great to all of us. So please feel free to share your About the Cards mail days with us at About the Cards. We'll do our best to get you on an upcoming episode. The week that was last week, Topps Living did not come out until Friday. Week 195, card 471, Ozzie Smith of the Cardinals, and 472, Bailey Ober of the Twins, rookie card.
Mm-hmm.
Think that there was an issue there. Again, Jared Kelly, the artist, said something with the Cleveland Indians Guardians logo was the issue, and he had to go back to the artwork and resubmit that. So also Topps Holiday released on the 29th, Panini Contenders Optic Basketball on the 1st, Panini XR Football on the 1st, and then Panini Mosaic Basketball on the 3rd. Hot off the presses, new releases, week 196 of Topps Living. Card 473, Frank Schwindel, first baseman for the Cubs. A's legend. He played like 7 games for us last year. Hit a home run. He was the darling of our Facebook A's groups for like 48 hours. Then got released, and so that's cool. And then card 474, Tristan McKenzie, pitcher for the Guardians, rookie card. And perhaps the card that caused the delay last week. So,
which, as has been pointed out, is the first Guardians card to be released.
It is. So enjoy if you are a Guardians fan. Topps Living Star Wars available through next Tuesday. Card 263, Mamau Nadon, who I always grew up thinking his name was Hammerhead from A New Hope from the Cantina scene. And then Rick Ollie, card 264 from Star Wars Attack of the Clones as a kid. I think they just recently did one as an adult. And then Throwback Thursday release, set 48, 1975 football highlights available through tomorrow morning. 4th and final iteration of that particular set. Card 142, Jonathan India. 143, Bryce Harper with a short print variation. And card 144, Corbin Burns. Major releases this week. I didn't see anything from Upper Deck on the checklist. I think you guys have quite a bit coming up soon, right. I believe, if not mistaken.
Yeah, nice prim and proper for the winter season.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is going to be out after the first of the year, unfortunately. But when the dam breaks, it's going to be
coming.
pretty impressive. Yeah.
It's coming. Except for I'm not getting my Denny's cards anytime soon, from what I understand.
Well, you can always go on eBay and buy them from the past and open up the packs yourself.
I do. I had like 3 pages of McGuire's. I had like 2 of them, and I'm like, no, this is unacceptable. I need more.
But do you have an unopened pack?
I don't.
Because if you hold them up to the right light, you can kind of see the player names.
We have a pack pervert in the house.
Yeah, there it is.
Indeed.
2021 Panini 1-and-1 basketball releases today. I think it's $1,600 a box. It was difficult to find a price. You get 1 pack and 2 cards. You get an auto and then a base, parallel, or insert. Enjoy. That's extremely. I mean, I'm not broke, but I mean, I see prices like that, and it's like that's incredible. But also releasing today, Panini Spectra Football, $1,200 a box. You get 4 cards in a pack, 4 packs in a box. Get an RPA, 3 autos, 4 mems, 7 base, parallels, or variations, and 1 insert. 2021 Topps Chrome Black is back for a second year. It dropped today, $150 a box. You'll get 1 pack, 4 cards. You'll get 1 encased Chrome auto, probably of a random relief pitcher, and then a 100-card base set. It was actually really beautiful stock last year.
I will give it a lot of credit. They did choose to include Luis Ariz last year, so it's not all relief pitchers.
There you go. And
do we have a count on how many versions of Topps Chrome there is this year?
73.
He's not wrong. It's pretty high.
Yeah, it's
Topps Chrome. Ginter Chrome comes out, I think, in 2 weeks.
Allen and Ginter.
There is.
Stadium Club Chrome just came out. Yeah, that's where the collectors really get frustrated. Is you just don't need so many parallel. We're all for new and different things. We talked about documentary earlier. It was something different. We hadn't seen it before. We haven't seen it since. And
I don't think anybody's longing to bring that back.
But I mean, I've long held this rant. In years past, the configuration of some of the sets, where you have, okay, so Bowman, it has the base set. Okay, nice, cool. Thanks. That's perfectly Bowman. I know that's cool. I thank you. I get that. Now here's a prospect insert set. Now here's the Chrome prospect insert set. Okay, now fine. But now we move into Bowman Chrome. Now you have the Bowman Chrome set. Cool. I like this. I know what this is. Here's the Chrome prospect set. Now we just had that. So what is this? And then you move into draft. I'm like, cool. Okay, this is Bowman draft. I get this. I know this. Okay, there are Chrome versions of it. Okay, it's stretch, but okay, fine, sure. Now, then you move into the draft picks as a base set. Okay, but then we just had a base. But then you have the Chrome version of it. Guys, come on. We don't need Chrome everything. We don't need all Uber pros. My mic just keeps wanting to scroll away. Let me lock that down.
Yeah, it's. You were talking earlier about being new to the hobby, and I've been back in this hobby for 11, 12 years now, and I still don't get why Bowman is the way it is, and it's the same repetitive product, and it's very confusing for the casual collector, let alone experienced collectors. And if we go to that casual collector as being the baseline consumer, just the everyday average person that doesn't need everything, that dips their toes in the water here and there in different sports and different manufacturers, I can see why they would just say, you know what, I don't need to spend this kind of money on this. If I can't understand it, I'm done with it. It's almost like reading a movie or watching a movie that has, a foreign dialect, and then you got to read the whole movie. For some people that might be great, but for other people, they're going to get frustrated 10 minutes in and say, what else is on? I don't need this. At the end of the day, this is a hobby.
Sure.
We don't need this. We can't drink it. We can't eat it. We can't drive it. We can't live in it. It's something supposed to be fun. And if the manufacturers create something that is uber frustrating, once in a while, you have something that every product's not for everybody.
Sure.
But when you're just bastardizing your product over and over again, like certain manufacturers have, it's why am I doing this? And then when you're married and your spouse is like, why are you doing this? It's like, I can't justify it to you.
Well, and that's why I want to give you guys prompts is, everything has its own identity. There's a reason for why this set exists. And, not every set may be for me. I may not like every set, but at least it has its established identity.
Well, but I think one of the dilemmas, and look, I can't speak to why anybody else does what they do, but I think one of the dilemmas as a manufacturer is, when you especially when you have a legacy set, you want to cater to the person that's been collecting it for several years, but they also want to see something fresh and new at times as well to keep it going. But if you tweak it too much, then you tick off those legacy collectors. And then you're also trying to establish levels, right? And I think this is where it gets really tricky as a manufacturer is you want to, in a set like a Bowman, which is similar to, let's say, a UD, right?
Sure.
You want to have a base level of collecting for the casual consumer, the new consumer. But for the experienced collector, you also want to have a level for them as well. And I think where it gets tricky for anybody, any of the manufacturers, is how do you satisfy all those different things at one time? Sure. And it is very easy for it to go off the rails very quickly because you are trying to satisfy so many people at one time. So, you make a change, it may be good for the experienced collector, but now you punch the casual collector in the gut, right? And it's hard. I mean, it really is hard when you get into the analysis of trying to build this stuff for the product teams.
So we've got an evergreen question that I want to get to a little bit later, since you're going to stay with us before we close the show. Just one that's been lingering for a while that I think will be perfect for you while you're with us, considering what you do for a living. Just one last major release this week. Heritage High number came out today, $95 a box, up $5 from regular Heritage. 24 packs, 9 cards a pack. You'll get an auto or a relic. It's the 1972 design. 200 card base set with an additional 25 short prints. Brings the entire Heritage set up to $725 for the year. Ryan Cracknell has a complete guide in progress with a checklist and gallery of all of the super short print pictures at Beckett.com. Also releasing this week, 2021 Rittenhouse Game of Thrones Iron Anniversary Series 2. And Friday, 2021 Topps WWE Heritage Wrestling. All scheduled release dates are subject to change, of course, but we're current as of this morning. MSRP pricing and details were gathered from Blowout and are subject to change. Always, Beckett.com/news for Ryan Cracknell's articles. What's brewing next week? On Wednesday, December 15th, 2021 Bowman Inception. 2021 Panini Flux Basketball. The aforementioned 2021 Topps Allen and Ginter Chrome. Another one, Topps Chrome Platinum Anniversary. Topps Garbage Pail Kids. Garbage Pail Kids Go on Vacation. I misspoke. There is one. Upper Deck MVP Hockey is slated to release next week on the 15th. 2021 Leaf Valiant Football on Thursday the 16th. And then on Friday the 17th, Panini Contenders Baseball. Panini Impeccable Football, and Topps WWE Wrestling. It's going to be a very busy week next week if all of that holds. Infield Chatter, Hobby Talk. Topic, PSA acquires card ladder via PSA card. As far as I'm concerned, this is just another company trying to monopolize different avenues. They're selling it as if, this is going to be great for the collector. Well, we all know what PSA is at this point, what they stand for.
Yeah, and, I think the idea here being that, while you're looking at your a collection on the PSA website, you can kind of get a gauge of where things are based on current and future prices on those cards. Kind of like the idea makes logical sense. The PSA would offer something of that category on their website. Surprised, honestly, that it hadn't already, but okay, acquisition. I dig it.
Yeah, no, it happens. We were going to have Chris McGill from Card Ladder and House of Jordans. He was already scheduled about a month ago. We were going to have him on next week. Unfortunately, he is going to have to postpone. We're going to see if we can swap with another guest. If not, he's said he'd be more than happy to come on in January. We'll get some insight if he can share anything on that. So
It's probably pretty busy. I mean,
yeah, yeah. So BCW is now offering new storage boxes for top loaders,
love it.
semi-rigids, and magnetics. There's 6 new sizes. Some, maybe all of them, are on back order until December 15th. What are your thoughts? Obviously, yeah. Jason, you have any thoughts on the new sizes? I mean, this is kind of a cool thing now.
Yeah. So as a collector, how do you store your cards?
Kind of in a big mess. Look, I don't do a lot of active collecting
Sure.
on the modern stuff. When I do collect, I try to kind of go back and fill holes in some of my old sets that have no value whatsoever, but they're kind of fun. I try to stay out of the modern stuff because I think it's weird for me to be involved in any current stuff. I think it's just an odd thing. It's a conflict of interest. But when I do store some of that stuff, I still love albums when I'm building a set, and I'm still a little bit old school when it comes to top loaders. I do a few one touches here and there. I didn't even realize, other than the grading stuff, I didn't realize anybody buys semi-rigids for anything other than grading.
Yeah.
But
What they do?
But I have to say the supply companies have done a great job over the years adapting to the market. We have a great relationship with Ultra Pro that I can't say enough about. They've created holders for graded, non-graded. They've come up with all these different sizes for one touches and soft sleeves and top loaders. They do a fantastic job on that stuff, and it's nice. Again, to be able to have that portfolio of different stuff to pull from. But, I haven't looked recently, but I'll tell you, at the beginning of the year, I was looking for some supplies like a lot of people. And when I was going on to some of these websites, they were back ordered until March of 22. So I don't know if that's gotten any better or not.
Not particularly.
What's funny is I mentioned earlier, I've got some stuff in my van for Shep. I only buy singles, so I end up with a lot of top loaders in my house, and then he trades them for me. So, he had a Topps Update base team set for me, and I was like, he's like, you got any of those top loaders again? And we've been caught by a security guard one time at one of my previous jobs because we were next to his van trading some baseball cards, and he's like, what are you guys doing? And I almost wanted to tell him we were selling drugs to each other because I didn't want to say we were trading baseball cards. And
if you've got a surplus of top loaders, there's a company out there that has a top loader buyback program, from what I've heard.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you want to say who that name is?
That would be our friends ComC up there in Seattle.
I don't. There's one guy that works there that just bugs the crap out of me.
Is it this guy right here with the Warren Sport Card Investor Buffett?
Speaking of which, there was a comment I wanted to mention. I don't know
Zalski.
I don't know if you're in the YouTube chat, Jason, but Scissortail Cards, who had the question for you earlier, said, great episode tonight. The love for the Red Wings was uncalled for, but overall a great episode. Thank you. So have a little fun there. So Topps has revamped their redemption substitute process. Apparently, Mike_McKenna tweeted out that you can now click a link to request a replacement. There's a general statement that says a value that you have to agree to. And that's where it gets tricky because secondary market pricing is so fluid. And again, as we've talked before, and we'll talk again when Jeff Soxie comes back on in January, comps don't really exist in this hobby. Sure, it's the only thing we have. But as market dynamics go, 2 to 3 cards have sold. That's not really a comp. It's what we have, so we use it, of course.
Sure.
But when we're relating it to the art market or other similar linear comparisons, even if they're not that close, they're not real comps. Just because one sold doesn't mean that's your market. That's just an isolated variable.
But especially in that the replacement redemption, I know Angela can speak more to this, but I like when you actually see companies providing something that's a clear need. You know, whether it's making things a little bit simpler, or maybe explaining things a little bit better, or just offering a new service that makes a lot of sense. I love seeing that. So nice to see from them.
You know, from my perspective, replacements are probably the hardest thing that we deal with as a company.
Sure.
In redemptions, and look, our customer service team is phenomenal, but
Definitely.
it is really tough. And what I think people maybe sometimes don't understand is, when you talk about comps, whether it's where do you pick the value from? Do you pick it from eBay? Do you pick it from Beckett? You need some standard guide to kind of reference. And then on top of that, okay, just because you got the value, a true collector, and again, I try to focus on the true collectors, they submitted that redemption for a reason. A lot of times it's because they want that card, they want that player. And the reality is no matter what you do, unless you can give that card, it's hard to be happy as a collector because I wanted that card.
Right.
So a lot of times we can provide the value, but no matter what we do, the collector is going to be upset because they didn't get their card and they didn't get their player. So you can substitute a value, but if it wasn't their player, now they're upset. And we may not have their player to do a replacement for, right?
Sure.
Like we may not have that stuff. And honestly, it's somewhat comical, guys, because typically when people say, here are the players I'm willing to accept as a replacement. So literally you'll get somebody, and it's literally a $2 card for replacement. And there are 4 replacement that they'll accept.
Let me see if I can guess. LeBron, McDavid, Gretzky, and Tiger Woods.
Yeah, well, you just put McDavid instead of Jordan there. That's the other one. So I mean, it's a $2 card, but they want the biggest names in the hobby. So and at that point, like no matter what you do, somebody's going to be upset. So it's a sticky situation for any of the companies to have to deal with that replacement thing, because at the end of the day, if you can't give the original card, people just aren't happy, and I don't blame them.
It's tough because I've bought redemptions on the secondary market, and again, as an A's only collector, that's who I'm after. And there was one time Topps didn't have Dave Stewart, who at the time didn't have very many autographs. So I was super excited to have one for the PC because I just didn't have one. And 3 years later, I call and I'm just like, do you guys have any information if Dave is ever going to sign? She's like, listen, do you want a replacement or not? I was like, what I want is, do you know whether or not this individual is going to sign? She goes, we can replace it if you want. And I'm like, I don't think you're hearing the words. So I ended up just hanging out because it's like,
was she telling you the answer without telling you the answer?
In all fairness, she may not know because she's separate from the group that handles the signings, right? And the craziest stuff happens to these packages. I mean, it's sometimes it's the athlete. Sometimes FedEx loses the package, right?
Sure.
Or, I mean, we had one when I was running basketball. We had a box of exquisite cards that Jerry West found in his bushes like 6 months later.
Oh boy.
So they were sent to him. He signed them. Somehow they got knocked off the stoop before the FedEx guy showed up. I mean, it's the weirdest stuff happens to these cards. It's not always as black and white as somebody didn't sign, somebody didn't fulfill their contract, whatever. Like crazy stuff happens.
Sure. And related, we had a issue where we're trying to explain to someone, it's like, hey, I can't speak to when this player will sign the thing and have it available. I'm sorry. I'm willing to bet when they get eliminated or win the title that he's probably going to be made available. He's probably going to spend some time with his family, celebrate a little bit, then he'll sign. But there's no way that you can definitively say. There's a lot of moving cogs, and I'm sorry you're frustrated, but I mean, so are we.
But we mentioned earlier, Jason, when you'd said that, hey, we're having this, and this, and Shep had said, the honesty, the transparency is huge, because as a collector,
definitely,
I can get frustrated when an item or a particular program gets moved back on the release calendar, or now perhaps gets canceled. But if I just know that it's out of the control as opposed to just dead silence, I mean, we on this show have given Topps a hard time for 7 months now about Big League Baseball because it keeps getting pushed back.
Wood minis. No.
Just say, you know what? Say, hey, it's just not going to work this year. We're not doing Big League Baseball. The program will come back in 2022 if we can. Don't just keep pushing it back a month after. It just looks bad, and because you're not telling us anything, not that you're obligated to, but that there is a certain trust level. You want me to be your consumer, just tell us, hey, we're having some issues right now, like every company is. I deal with this all the time.
Wrap these two up and bring them back when we can.
In economics analysts, I deal with this all the time. It's like stuff moves. They're sitting in the port for 8 weeks. What do you want them to do? They can't get the containers off the ship. The ship is literally right there. It's not like they can swim that container to the port. It's kind of heavy. It's sitting there. We have issues all across, the world. It's not isolated to the United States. It's what it is. A little bit of communication, and that's why when I called and said, hey, do you know? If she just said, no, we don't have track of that. Cool. Hey, you've now answered my question. That's all I needed to know. And good news was he did sign it. I have that card. It's beautiful. And so hey, some great news. Veterans Committee voted this week and righted some Hall of Fame wrongs.
I think the Golden Era Committee.
Is that what it was? The Golden Era Committee? That's right. Because I think the Veterans Committee deals with the steroid era people.
Yeah, I think it's 60s onwards.
Okay. So I apologize.
70s onwards.
So the one that should have been in many years ago was Buck O'Neill. Mm-hmm. He lived from 1911 to 2006. Very big part of Ken Burns' baseball documentary. Fascinating human being. He was the first African-American coach in Major League Baseball. This was a long time coming. So congratulations.
Kansas City legend.
Yeah. Congratulations to Buck O'Neill. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us because I can only imagine what that Hall of Fame speech would be. I mean, it would have been probably one of the most incredible ones we've ever heard. Also inducted or will be inducted is Bud Fowler. He lived from 1858 through 1913, and he is the earliest known African-American in organized professional baseball.
And also, I know, Bob Kendrick, who does a lot of amazing work with the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, is both appreciative but excited to see both of those guys in, and I kind of share that excitement, sharing his enthusiasm that he shared over the last couple of years on social media. So,
and then Jim Catt, Minnie Minoso, Gil Hodges, and Tony Oliva also.
Hey, I know two of those guys.
I'm sure you do. So congrats to the newest members. So I thought we have a little bit of fun. What's your favorite card? And Jason, I don't know if you've got any off the top of your head, or if you want to Google some. If you want to participate, that'd be great. We're just going to do a favorite card of each of these players. Jim Catt played from 1959 through 1983. Spent 15 years with the Twins. He's age 83, so he is alive, and will be making his speech. Steph, what's your favorite Jim Catt card?
So much as he alluded to, I can't just pick one. But they're two different companies. One with Fleer and one with Topps. So the Fleer card that I was thinking of was 1963 Fleer. Kind of looks like this. Great card, nice dugout shot. You kind of like those Sorry, eBay seems to not be wanting to play. The non-pitching photos for pitchers. Just a cool shot. You can kind of just make out the soda there, as well as the Twins cap that is briefly visible on the top of his head. And for Topps, I had to go, as a lover of action photos, which you guys do very well, by the way. I went with 72 Topps. It's a high series. It's an in-action card number 710. It's actually him pitching. I mean, you can't ask for more. It's a little cropped in a bit, good bit, but you can see his full-on wind-up, him about to release a pitched ball. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I went with the 1983 Topps Super Veteran, which showed him as a young 40-year-old versus a old 40-year-old. Jim Cat just always had that look that he was his own grandfather. Not as bad as like Jerry Reese did. You know, you get that 1987 Topps and you're like, this guy's a pitcher. He looks like he's the manager. And then you turn it over and you're like, this guy's only 36. Okay, interesting. Minnie Minoso played from this guy's career was phenomenal. Started in 1946, retired in 1964. Then he came back in 1976 at age 50. Then he came back in 1980 at age 54. So not quite Satchel Paige-esque, but played across 5 different decades. I mean, that's just incredible. He predominantly was a White Sox. He spent 12 years with the White Sox. He died in 2015. I think Steph and I chose the same card from 1956 Topps. It's just a good-looking, sharp card. I mean, 56 is great, but it's got a smile. Love the in-action shot behind him where he's kind of floating in the air, sliding into second base.
Against the Yankees, yeah.
It's a good card. So, and then Gil Hodges made it. Perhaps more of a controversial one. I know that he always was hotly debated for years when he was eligible. He played from 1943 to 1963, 16 years with the Dodgers, a couple with the Mets. Died in 1972 at age 47 of a heart attack. He was the manager for the 1969 Amazing Mets. And I went with the 1949 Bowman. It's just a beautiful, beautiful card, beautiful set. You know, it's the...
I went same set, same company, different set, 53 Topps. The color version in particular. With anything, I'm going to pick 53 Bowman color. Just the details in the background. I mean, you can see the billboards for you to brighten this photo up a bit. The Schaefer advertising in the background, him at presumably first, I believe. Just a great photo and a great card. There's no extraneous details needed. It's just photo, black border, amazing card.
Yeah,
but I did add for Minnie Minoso, he was Wayne Nordhagen's teammate in 1980.
All right.
So personal collection tie-in.
But the first iteration of Bowman, they had so many great sets and so much great imagery, and they did it right. So it's too bad that they were taken over by Topps in 1955, because only imagine what they would have given to the hobby had they continued under that same management. I think it's almost like my favorite singer of all time, Sam Cooke, died in his early 30s. It's like, what were we robbed of? So many musicians that died. Isn't today the anniversary of John Lennon having been murdered? It's like so many great artists, and I don't want to compare that to Bowman going out of business, but that's a really bad analogy on my part. But at the same time, it's one of those things, like, as a hobbyist, it's like, man, feels like we were robbed of some great cards because of a merger. So
and great music,
and some great music to close out that thought. And then Tony Oliva, he spent his whole career with the Twins from 62 to 76. He also is still alive. He's age 83. So both he and Jim Cat should be present giving their speeches in Cooperstown. I went with the 1965 Topps. Steph went with the 72 Topps puzzle.
So it's kind of cheating. There are 6 of them, but forming one huge piece. This is my binder page from several years back that I finally completed, picking up the Bobby Bonds. But no, it's fully spells out his name. It's a great photo of him at the stadium with the bat on his shoulders. And then, at least in my 9-pocket page, I have the AL leading batsman, where you can see that he led the league in 63, 64, and 71. The 71 AL batting leaders with him featured. And then just a random card from 72 Topps where it features and mentions that, hey, be on the lookout for Topps, the full color puzzles of Tony Oliva and Tom Seaver. Well, there's my full-on set of this. Now, for Tony Oliva, Jim Cott went on to do broadcasting for the Yankees network as well as several others. Applauding his work. I think he broadcasted the '87 World Series. Natural selection for him. But with Tony Oliva, he's really been a brand ambassador, something that I'm sure Kirby Puckett would have followed in his footsteps. But my favorite story, I'm not much of one for outside of the hamburger. I eat a plain hot dog. I eat a plain hamburger. But when we went to Target Field for the first time, they have a Tony O's Cuban sub shop on one of the concourses. And I just happened to show up, and he was working the booth. And, I say, hey, can I have a Cuban without this vegetable, that vegetable? And he goes, no. You have to have with it. It makes it taste better. And yeah, amazing sandwich. Definitely worthy of stopping if it's still at the stadium.
But a more amazing story.
Indeed.
That's what's cool. So, and it filled up 9 pockets. So if there's I don't know if any manufacturers listen to our show, but if they do, 9 pocket team sets are great for the true collector.
By 9.
9, 18, 27, doesn't matter. 9 is a great number for those of us that binder. I'm going to skip over a couple of topics that we had just because we're running long and we're coming up amongst the 2-hour mark. I did have I mentioned that there was one topic that I think would be perfect to ask while we have Jason on. It was actually asked by one of our listeners on Twitter just randomly, and I caught it, so I borrowed it for the show. Is there such a thing as a quote-unquote bad product? Since everyone collects differently, is there a bad product? I mean, comes down to your MSRP versus your rate of return. No matter what you're opening, you have to find some kind of value in it personally. Obviously flippers and breakers, it's going to be a completely different story. But if it's just the guy that goes into the LCS, somebody walks into Chef's shop tomorrow and buys a box of Upper Deck, is it their bad Upper Deck product? Is there a bad Tops product? What are your guys' thoughts on just in general? I mean, are we putting too much stuff out to where there are some, or we have to look at it through the prism of not everything is made for everybody?
Micro.
So I think you kind of veered into a different territory. So whether it's a good product or whether there's a reason to have that product, they're two different things, right?
Sure.
So is there a bad product? I would say I think there isn't a bad product. Part of it is what are you getting at what price and how are you consuming that product? For somebody that's a singles collector, if they really like the aesthetic of the singles, it's a great product for them. But if you have somebody that's buying $100 box and they're getting $20 worth of return out of it, and that's all they're concerned about, then it's a bad product for them, right? Or if they buy a product and for some reason none of their team is in that set, or there's only 1 or 2 cards from that team in that set, then that's a bad product for them, right? But on the flip side, you may have another team that has 11 players from their team, and it's a great product. So, it's really hard. I think it's very subjective because it really gets to how do you collect and what's important to you as the collector or the shop in many cases. I don't think there's a universally just terrible product. And it doesn't matter who it's made by, because even if it's somebody making it in their garage somewhere, there's probably somebody that will appreciate that somewhere.
Sure.
Right. Whether there's a reason for being for the product, I do think we've gotten to a point where it's out of control. And I kind of compare. So to me, there's a lot of parallels to where we were in the 90s to where we are now. A lot of the stuff that's being produced reminds me of the Kmart sets, the Toys R Us sets.
Yes.
It's just we're putting it out there to put it out there. As an industry, there's not really a reason for it to exist. It's just out of control, right? So I think there's where you kind of ended up is very different than is there a bad set or is there a good set per se?
I mean, there are. It truly depends. Like you said, what avenue you're choosing to attack it. I mean, collectors would argue that Topps Micro is a horrible set. And for the most part, it is just because of its sizing. But if it was introduced as a $5-10 kids set with smaller hands and much better vision, I can see that set working out for them. Whereas it's not for somebody who's been collecting for 80 years, who can't drive any longer. That's probably not the set for them.
Yeah, but maybe there's somebody out there with tiny hands that really loves that set.
Well, I mean, exactly.
They should have been made just a little bit bigger, though. I mean, they could still have been micro and twice that size, though, because I've brought those cards out and there's no pages for them. Even if you put them in tobacco sheets, they don't sit very well. They sit crooked because you can't get your sausage fingers in there to straighten them. And if we ever talk about a bad product, perhaps micro. But yeah, Jason, to your point, there's an old commercial I think I've mentioned on here before where a dad is talking about spending the day with his kids and the car blew a flat and they got stuck in the mud and the fish that they caught dumped out in the thing and they got stung by bees. And he's like, God, worst day ever. And then the kids are like, hey, Dad, remember that time when we went out camping and this and this and this happened and that was awesome. Best day ever. And it's like, you don't know what somebody's going to choose to remember.
Sure.
In that case with that radio spot. And it's like, again, not all of us like it. There are going to be people out there that are going to say Micro, best set ever. Upper Deck documentary, best set ever. Topps big. I love it. Shep hates it. There are going to be people that might look at Upper Deck masterpieces and how you could say that's not a brilliant set, but there might be somebody out there that didn't enjoy it.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because there is the enjoyment of any one particular part of a set, but you also, it's like, with your family, it really comes down to creating memories with your family. And the hobby is the same way, right? Like when I collected as a kid, Topps Big was my nemesis, right? Because no matter what I did, there were no supplies for it. So they always got ruined, right? And I hated those Topps Big, but now all these years later, you kind of look back to it as a memory and you can't help have a fondness for some of that stuff. And it drove you nuts at the time, but now you look back and you go, well, it was different. And, it's kind of cool because it was different, even though it sucked at the time, trying to figure out how to store those things or not damage them. Now you look back and you go, hey, and all of a sudden that was an important set to me from my memory going back, whereas something you really liked at the time, you don't even remember per se. Right. So, it's interesting when you look at this stuff. It's funny every time I see something on documentary, right? Like whether you love it or hate it, it's something that creates a memory for people one way or another, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I've got a binder with 4 pocket sheets. And the whole binder, it's yay thick. The whole binder is the documentary set. That's all that's in there. 4 cards per page. It's like a tiny photo album. It fits in that perfectly. And once I put it in there, I'm like, you know what? I don't hate this set nearly as bad because it's not taking up a big part of a different binder from 2009. It's taken up one binder by itself. It's all encompassed. And as long as I can agree that I have the complete set and I don't need the other side of the set from the other team, I don't. And again, like Topps Big, it's different. It was unique. It was a moment in time. And here we are 12 years later talking about it. So is it really that bad if it's still a talking point that we can look back and enjoy as adult collectors and say, it was something different? How many sets are going to get lost in history? Right. Not that one. Not that one.
Right. And that's, that's one of the things that, I think maybe we as an industry have kind of lost, is that ability to really do something kind of crazy and different. Because you do risk the polarization with people. 91 Fleer was not different in any way. But some of those are the most memorable at the end of the day, right? And that's right. There's a place for those things too.
No, and
absolutely.
I can definitely get it. And the reason I showed it is everyone states, well, it's school bus yellow, but as a 4-year-old in 1991, I still vividly remember opening these, maybe because they're burned into my retinas, but great cards. Love the set. And I'm not saying that because they won the World Series that year either, but
I don't think the issue is with design in 91 Fleer. It's the fact that
No.
somebody's printing those somewhere still.
Probably, but I wouldn't surprise me. But I mean, you hear people complain. Well, I didn't get anything I wanted out of that. Well, then, did you look at it before you opened it? Did you see what there was? No, I mean, we hear a lot of hate for Ginter and Goodwin, but at the same time, then there's a friend of ours who we've talked to in the National, Chris, who just has an absolutely amazing Goodwin collection between the World War stuff, the memorabilia that he has. It's amazing. And not everything is for you, unfortunately.
Well, and I think that comes down to, and again, this is where I think hobby shops really serve a big purpose is before you buy something, you need to know what you're buying. And Ginter and Goodwin are not for every customer. They're not. They're very different products. Know what you're buying before you buy it. And I do think the hobby shop plays a critical role in being able to say, hey, this is what this product's about. Here's a couple cards of what it looks like. Here's some of the content. If you're buying stuff blind, like eventually you are going to be disappointed because every set that every manufacturer makes has a very different personality. Otherwise, there would only be one set that everybody makes per year.
No, and that's we see it with other products, lower end products like Opening Day. I didn't even get a hit out of this box. It's like, well, then you probably should have known.
Opening day.
And ask. If you don't know, don't just buy it because it's the only thing at retail. And it's a good question. I don't think there's a bad product out there. It's just you have to understand that not every product is for you, me, or the other person. Manufacturers have to cater to multiple consumer bases. The market is fragmented and it's segmented for a reason. Just like automobiles. Not everybody's going to drive a Rolls Royce. Some people are going to buy some guys are going to buy the Kia. That's just the way it works. It depends on what you need. You don't need a big monster truck if you're not hauling anything. I drive a mommy van. Why? Because I got kids.
Well, you say that, but I mean, if you drive down the roads down here, all you're going to see are the Texas edition F850s rolling around. But
the automobile version of FOMO.
Well, and look, I think one of the things that gets lost, again, everybody in this industry is super passionate, which is great and it's an asset. But I think everybody gets focused on themselves, right?
Sure.
What products do I like? How do I collect? And then they try to project that on everybody else. And the reality is, and I think the trick for the manufacturers is not only to have a product for all the different collecting tastes and the different things that people might like, the different types of cards, things of that nature, but also getting them to all the different places that somebody might want to buy. And I talk about that all the time is, okay, you have the different products, but you have people who only want to go into a trading card shop. They only want to go into Walmart or Target. They only want to buy online directly from the manufacturer. And, you not only need to build products to suit all the different desires that somebody may have or the style of set, but you also need to put them in the places that people want to buy as well, because we are in an age now where people expect you to cater to them. Like everything's so personalized, everything's so, catered to our personal tastes in so many different aspects of life. And that's one of our challenges is taking this very historic, traditional hobby and then personalizing it and try to get stuff that everybody wants to buy, how they want to buy it, how they want to collect it. And it's tough because sometimes I see everybody taking what they want, how they want to collect it, how they want to buy it, and projecting it on everybody else. And that's just not fair.
It isn't, but that's also a reflection of just kind of how social media, that mindless, faceless thing. I was listening to the radio yesterday, and the Bulls play-by-play TV announcer was saying the stuff that he gets on Twitter, you would never say to his face, if you saw him in a sports bar.
Sure.
But we've gotten, and I'm guilty of that. We get comfortable with just kind of saying what we say because there's no repercussions and really accountability for what we say on social media. And we get comfortable and we do project our thoughts and feelings in within the hobby, how we collect. And, that's why, at least on the podcast, we try to do the best job we can of, hey, we slow it down sometimes and say how we collect is not going to be right for everybody. But at least let us walk you through some ideas of how you might be able to figure out what's best for you and how you collect. And if we can help one person, that's, an amazing opportunity and gift that we've been given and a platform to hopefully, and we've made some great friends along the way that have asked us questions. I mean, I asked too. I asked Steph, hey, do I need more documentary? And he's going to give me his recommendation. Like, yeah, you probably do as a team collector because here's why. And doesn't mean I have to, but it's his opinion, and I value that. So we've went way beyond 2 hours. Uncle Rich Klein is going to be absolutely set with us when he finds out how long this episode ran. Jason, if we could have you back on maybe in a couple of months, we have so much more to ask once your calendar gets a little bit more, and a lot of these products have released and the collectors have gotten their hands on it. We'd love to have you back on, or any, Chris again. Any member of your staff that would love to come on, we'd love to schedule you guys. So we want to thank you for your generosity for coming on tonight. Remember, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube.
10 Central.
You can make sure to subscribe and review our show on all platforms. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. You can follow Stefan at
Junkwax Twins.
I'm at Our Trading Cards. Jason, where can we find you besides at Upper Deck Sports on Twitter?
It's Upper Deck Sports, Upper Deck ENT for the entertainment. We also have an Upper Deck Esports that we do as well. And we're on all social. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The crew is very active out there on all forms of social media. And I think most importantly, UD Assists. On Twitter in particular, if you're running into issues, you have a bad corner, a bad crease out of a pack, things of that nature, is a big piece for us.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. We're probably going to get a tremendous amount of positive feedback. The Upper Deck, the Upper Deck, the YouTube chat was Upper Deck all night long. Everybody was excited. So please share your hobby stories, great polls, send your questions our way. Keep collecting. We'll see everybody next week.
We'll see you then, guys. Enjoy.